Hey there, let's have a look on the HBHF sensor, which stands for the heartbeat, breathing, humidity and footstep sensor. In other words, it's a player sensor which will tell you if someone is around your base. You can find it in a regular crate, military crate, elite crate or hackable crate. Once you have it, you need 75 scrap to get the blueprint. You can craft it on a level 2 workbench using 15 high quality metal and 1 tech trash. The easiest wiring is power to the power input pin, and because the sensor always gives a power output equal to the number of players it is sensing, you can always power a single electric component directly from the sensor. But because normally you will want to power multiple devices when someone is around your base, my recommendation is to run the power input through a branch a bit of the power for the player sensor, then connect the powers again using an AND switch, and finally use a splitter to split the power output into the final devices. So what this AND switch thing does is that it is letting power through only if it's got power input on both of these pins. We've always got power input on input B, but we only got power input on input A if the player sensor is sensing someone. So only if someone is around, these devices will be powered. The player sensor can only sense someone if they are not behind it, if they are not behind an obstacle, and up to a certain distance, which they say is 20 meters, but this seems to me more like 20 feet. By default, the player sensor ignores people who are authorized with the corresponding tool cupboard, so if I authorize myself, it will stop sensing me. You can use your hammer to configure this behavior. And in case you are wondering, player sensors cannot sense animals, I tried it. Because these sensors will be usually placed outside your base, it is worth mentioning that players can quite easily jump on them, so make sure you never place them too low. Okay guys, this is the HBHF sensor. I hope you find these tips useful. If you do, please give me thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more videos from me, and keep watching if you want to see some basic examples how to use this sensor in your base. Okay guys, so I've prepared a few examples for you how to use the player sensor in practice. I'm gonna try to walk you through the circuits so you understand how does it work, hopefully. So the first one in general is when you want to know if someone is around your base. So I've got this tiny base here. I've got two player sensors on the corners, one on this corner, one on the opposite. This one is scanning this wall, and the other one on the other side is scanning this wall and this wall, so it should be covered all around. Now I'm using wind turbine as a power source. Power source is coming in this way into a splitter, which is splitting the power for both of the sensors. Now for each sensor, the wire goes into a branch first, which is branching out a bit of the power for the sensor, which is going to the power in input, and from the power out from the sensor we are receiving the power with this wire into this AND switch. We've already explained how does it work earlier, so I'm not gonna say again what an AND switch is. I'm just gonna say that the power is coming out from this wire in case the sensor is sensing a player outside. The other sensor on the other side works the same, and we've got both of these wires connected into an OR switch. So an OR switch is a similar thing to an AND switch. It's got two inputs, and unlike the AND switch, it is passing power through if either of these pins are receiving power. Okay, so if one of the sensors is sensing a player outside, the power will be coming from either of them or both of them, that doesn't matter, and the power will be passed through into this splitter component, which will further split the power into this audio alarm, which will start making sounds, and this flashlights which will start flashing. So I will know either if I've got my Rust game minimized, I will know that someone is around because I will hear the sounds, or I will see the flashing if I've got sounds off. Okay, let's see how does it work. Okay, so I will summon my minion so we can demonstrate how does it work. Ah, there he is. Okay, can you come closer so we can see if the sensors work correctly? Ooh. Pretty cool. Nice, thank you. You can now disappear. Okay guys, so we can see this works. It's my girlfriend actually. So the next one is using counters to determine which sensor is sensing how many people on which side of the base. So I've got 4 counter components here, each of one side of the base, and I've got 4 sensors, one here, basically one on each of the walls. And because the sensor is giving an output equal to the number of people it is sensing, I can use the sensor to with the counter component to display how many people are on each side of my base. I'm using a wind turbine for a power source again, so the power from the wind turbine goes into a splitter here. I've got 2 splitters actually, because I need 4 outputs for 4 sensors. So the first splitter is splitting the power for 2 sensors here and for the other splitter as well, and the other splitter is splitting the power for 2 more sensors. It's same for each of the sensors, so the power goes out of the splitters, it goes into the sensor with the power in pin, and from the power out pin I'm wiring it directly into the counter, which has to be set to show pass-through, otherwise it will show you nonsense. And if there is someone on any side of the building, it should show the correct number. So let's try to demonstrate again. Where's my minion? Can you come in, please? Are you there anywhere? Oh, there he comes. Good. On the hill. Come here on the hill. I mean this hill. This one. Can you see me? Can you? Oh, good. Come here. Okay. Can you try to run around the base? Okay, it works nicely. Can you see, guys, how is it showing the numbers? Now, if there were 2 people, obviously, on this side, it would show 2 here, and say 1 person here, it would show 1 here. So if you have a large base, this probably makes sense to put there. So if say a clan or a large group of players is raiding you, you know where to from which side to expect them. Okay, the next use case is if you want to scare out people from your base. Say, for example, if you are not there at all, you probably might, because people are not used to these Siren lights, I mean these lights that we've used earlier on the initial explanation. These lights are quite a new addition to the game, and people are not used to it very much. So what you can do is place them on your base and have these player sensors do stuff for you when someone gets close, and it might actually make the people think that someone is inside, or that the base is weird for some reason, dangerous or something, and they might just get away. So let's see how it works. I come closer. Okay, it does an audio alarm sound, and it turns on these Siren lights which are all around. So how does it work? I'm using 2 player sensors on the opposite corners, same as before, same as on the first example, and this part is already familiar with you, that it's the same for both of the sensors. Then the power is coming together into an OR switch, and if an OR switch receive power input from either of the sensors, it will pass the power through, which goes upstairs, and oh, here it is coming upstairs. I'm using 2 splitters again because I need to split the power into 4 outputs in total for each of the corner of the base, and for each of the corner I'm using a branch again to split the power into two outputs. I could use it would be more correct to use a splitter again to split the power in between the audio alarm and the Siren Light, but I'm using a branch here because a branch is cheaper because I need only two outputs. A splitter gives me three outputs, but a branch is, unlike a splitter, is much cheaper to manufacture. So we can just as well get away with a branch here, and it will be, overall it will make the circuit easier to make. So I'm branching out a bit of the power for the Siren Light, and the rest of the power goes into the audio alarm. Same for each corner. So if someone gets close, if the sensors are sensing someone, it will turn on these alarm sounds and these Siren Lights, and they might think twice about going close to your base. It probably won't scare away an entire clan ready to raid your base loaded with equip, but maybe a single player will just go away and pick another base. The last example I'm going to show you is using the player sensor for a trap, which is probably the most interesting part. I've got my minion ready here for demonstration, and basically what happens is that someone just stand there and wait for a moment. Basically what may happen is that someone might be interested in looking what's inside if they see a base with door open. So they might be thinking, maybe that was a noob, I might check it out. If there's some boxes or something I could try to loot. And what happens if they walk in is that they will have a not nice surprise. So they will die inside, and you can just come and collect their stuff. Okay, so how does it work? These doors are originally open. I'm using door controllers on each of these doors to either activate them or open them or close them. The control room is here. Here is the sensor. So if the user comes in this way, it's behind the corner, so they cannot. So they have basically no chance to run away because they are already deep inside when the sensor senses them and activates the system. The door these doors close quite quickly, so they have no chance running away. So the control room is here. I'm using a wind turbine on the roof as a power source again. The power from the wind turbine comes in using this wire into this first branch component here. I'm passing most of the power from the wind turbine to the next branch component, but I'm branching out a bit of the power this way into the player sensor, and from the other branch component I'm passing the power next into the memory cell component. I will explain in a moment what this thing does. And I'm branching out a bit of the power into a regular switch which I've got here. Now let's have a look on this memory component thing, because it's probably the most important piece of this circuit and it's a bit more complex, so let's try to explain. So it's got many pins. The first one is power in, which is the same as many others, so that I hope that's clear. It is passing power through from two outputs, and by default it is the inverted output, which goes into my outer door. So these doors are by default, now the memory cell is activated because my girlfriend died here. But normally this door controller here, which is paired with this door, receives power, and that means the doors are open by default. While if the memory cell gets activated, and I will explain in a moment how does it get activated, it will output power from the regular output. The regular output goes into a splitter, which I've got somewhere here. Yeah, here is a splitter, which splits the power into two other door controllers. One of them is here and the other one is here. So if the memory cell gets activated, these two door controllers receive power and these two garage doors will open, which will allow these two turrets to target the player who's been trapped. Now this memory cell component gets activated if it receives power into the set pin. So we've got the set pin wired directly into the output of the player sensor. So once the player sensor senses someone, it will send power into the set sensor, and the memory cell will remember to stay activated until it is reset using the reset power, until it receives power into the reset pin. So that means if we have a player who is coming in and gets sensed at this point by the sensor, the whole system gets activated, these garage doors will open, these will close, and the player will be trapped. But if the player goes back, gets scared, say he will get scared from the turrets, will try to run back and will go behind this corner, the sensor wouldn't be sensing the player anymore, and that means the circuit would get deactivated. These doors would close again and these would open. The player would be free to run away. So that's why we are using this component, which once activated will keep the system in the same state until it is reset using the reset pin. So what we can do now is once we have our guy trapped and looted, we can reset our trap for another guy to come in using this switch. So we will send power into the reset pin, which will reset the system to the original state, and then then it will work again for another player. So let's see. I will send power input into the reset pin. I will turn it off again so it can work properly. Now it's reset. You can see that this dot is red, which means the memory cell is in its original state, and you can see that these doors are closed and these doors are open. So if another guy comes in, the trap works again and you can profit again. Okay guys, so this is my 4 examples how to use the player sensor in practice. I hope you like it. I hope you feel a bit smarter now. I would like to thank to my girlfriend for assistance. Do you wanna say hello to the guys?
Hi!
Okay, that was nice, wasn't it? Okay, so if you like the video, please give me thumbs up. You can also subscribe if you want to receive more tips from me. Thank you for watching. See you next time, guys. Bye!